The Protoss watched in silence as humanity approached their part of space. Although the Protoss didn't know for sure about the wandering origin of the Terrans, they understood that these space hulks with a short lifespan would become an interesting object of study. Protoss History, Part 4: Humanity and the Coming of the Zerg. For 2 centuries, the Protoss watched the budding colonizers from Earth. The Terrans have managed to build rudimentary colonial structures on more than a dozen worlds in the Protoss sector. Although human technology was inferior to that of the Protoss, the Terrans were able to adapt to the worlds in which they lived and multiplied. The Protoss were amused by the fact that the Terrans were constantly fighting with each other while managing to develop technology and industry at a very fast pace. They were also worried about how quickly the Terrans were depleting the resources of their worlds. It seemed to the Protoss that the Terrans were not striving to maintain a delicate nature balance in their rapid advancement from one world to another, which resulted in depleted desert lands. However, the strict principles of the Deul forbade Protoss from directly interfering in the affairs of reckless Terrans. This separate existence continued for many years, but once a planned reconnaissance mission of the Protoss discovered something that predicted the death of the unlucky Terrans. The High Templar Tassadar, with his famed expeditionary force, has discovered biological structures drifting near the edges of Protoss space. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that these unknown alien organisms were in fact deep space probes. Although Tassadar was unable to trace their origin, it was clear that they were heading toward the Terran colonies in the Koprulu sector. Tassadar brought live probes to Aiur for immediate study. The strange aliens were unlike any species ever encountered by the Protoss. The physiological structure of the scouts clearly indicated that they were designed for deep space travel and reconnaissance. In order to know exactly what their underlying intentions were, the Protoss exposed the tiny brains of the aliens with the stream of Khadarian crystal energy. To the amazement of the Protoss, the alien scouts gave a quick and natural response to the powerful radiation of the crystals. This amazement was explained by the fact that only creatures that arose as a result of xel'naga's protogenetics could react to the energies of the great crystals. Even more disturbing was the vague stream of consciousness that repeated itself over and over again in the tiny brains of the probes.
Find humanity, eradicate, learn, evolve.
The Protoss understood that discovered scouts were harbingers of a serious threat to their part of the galaxy. If the creatures were designed with xel'naga technology, they must be very advanced and extremely powerful. It seemed obvious to the Protoss that the new race posed a tangible threat to all living things, and wherever the bulk of these creatures were, most likely they continued to search for unsuspecting Terran colonists. The Protoss began to send special reconnaissance expeditions to monitor the surrounding space, to find any traces of alien aggressors. Tassadar declared that in accordance with the principles of Deul, the protection of their races under the care of the Protoss was a sacred duty of his people. However, the Conclave objected that if the useless race of Terrans had already been infested by some new threat, then they should be destroyed by fire. A heated debate flared up between the Judicators and the Templars over the attitude towards the inevitable collapse of the Terrans. But both castes acknowledged the fact that the creatures were unquestionably engineered with the xel'naga technology. And if they were indeed created by the Ancient Ones, the Protoss need to be on the lookout. It was decided to send Tessador and his expeditionary force to monitor the Terran worlds and determine exactly the severity of the impending threat. To do this, Tessador led his command ship the Guntrithor and 100 other powerful Protoss warships toward the Terran sector. Upon arrival in the Terran sector, Tessador scouts uncovered evidence that a mysterious alien scourge had already begun to take its toll upon the Terran colonies. Upon closer inspection, Tessador discovered that the fringe colony of Chau-Sara had indeed been infested by alien organisms. The entire surface of the colony was covered with a cloudy poisonous substance, which had already begun to break the crust of the planet. Even worse, the aliens infested or slaughtered most of the colonies. Tessador, horrified by the state of the colony, could only wonder why the Terrans had not yet rushed to save their besieged world. The Conclave, having learned about the colony's fate, ordered Tessador to immediately burn the entire plagued planet. Tessador, realizing that the fire would destroy all life on the planet, in deep sorrow obeyed his masters. Protoss warships opened fire upon the unsuspecting colony. This costly undertaking led to the successful eradication of the alien infestation. However, several neighboring worlds, no doubt, were also already teeming with alien creatures. Tessador was ordered to burn these worlds and any other Terran settlements that had even the slightest possibility of infestation. But directing his fleet to the second infested colony of Mar-Sara, Tessador began to doubt the morality of his orders. The Terrans, taken by surprise by the first Protoss attack on Chau-Sara, launched a fleet of starships to intercept Tessador's fleet. Terran ships prepared to defend the colony from the Protoss, but Tessador mustered his forces and ordered them to retreat. Torn apart by eternal contradictions, he could not decide to destroy Mar-Sara, a fleet that had come to protect this colony. He was looking for a way to destroy the aliens without arbitrarily wiping out humanity in the process. Deciding on this, Tessador refused to carry out the orders of the Conclave, leading to genocide. Remaining with his fleet far outside the range of Terran sensors, he waited, watching as the presence of alien organisms spreads more and more in the Terran sector. As I said in my video dedicated to the Terran history, from this moment the events presented in the StarCraft game begin, with which you are of course familiar. Thank you for your attention. If it was interesting, do not skimp on the likes, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and may Adun protect you, my friends. Good luck.